Thank you so much. Okay, I think it's recording now. Okay, it's recording, great. So let's have an introduction also from our PSA president, Emily, really quick, if you just want to say a couple things about
Hi guys, so I'm a third-year student at Loyola. I'm majoring in marketing and management with a minor in finance. A little bit about me, I just got into PSA my freshman year. It was my way to just find a group of people that have something in common with me. I wanted to have something where I can just connect with people automatically and not be too nervous. So I'm glad you guys are all here, and a big shout out to Stefania and Angelica because this whole event was orchestrated by them, and I'm so excited to see what they got going.
So in that case, thank you very much, and let's begin. So really quickly, our Polish courses for the spring, they've announced the language courses, the regular courses like from our film, our literature, that seamlessly intertwine with our core at Loyola. So if you're looking for a Polish studies minor, maybe you'll be convinced after this presentation. So for our course offerings in the spring, there's elementary Polish with Professor McLeese, who's the program director for Polish studies. There's 2 elementary Polish level classes with Professor Oskiera and Professor Majkowska-Smith. And there's 1 intermediate course, which is with Professor Oskiera, a Polish medical terminology course, which our guest speaker, Anya, will talk about today. And then the last one, which is very interesting, is contemporary Polish culture in Polish. So it's much for advanced speakers, but if anyone here grew up with the Polish culture and knows the language very well, or has been throughout the program learning all of the languages, we invite you to join to that class. It's gonna be just a really good time. And so we just wanted to offer those and get you guys informed about what's happening. Once we have the regular courses offered, we'll announce them on like our social medias and through email and through your professors as well. So, paczki do Polski, which means packages to Poland. Emily, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to give back this holiday season. I know it's been a really rough year for everyone, so we came up with a way to give back to kids in Poland. So what we're going to be doing, and we want you guys to all keep this in mind, is to collect like very lightly used clothes that you're comfortable with, like passing on, or toys, and we'll have like collection sites throughout the Chicagoland area, and then we'll actually package them up and send them to orphanages in Poland. And I think it's just a really good way for you to like do a deep clean of your closet too, because I know we all have like way too many clothes that we don't wear. So please keep this in mind. Tell your parents, tell your chochi wiki, like everyone, like if anyone is willing, please let us know. We'll be sending out more information about this shortly.
Perfect. So this is a very exciting one. We have PSA t-shirt sales coming up. We had to update our design, but nevertheless, we've done it a couple times and we figured that out. So this is what our t-shirts will look like for the club. They're going to be $25. It comes with a t-shirt and there's extra surprises. So if Emily wants to talk about like when people can pick those up.
So we'll have a couple extra goodies for you guys to go with every t-shirt, so don't fret. I know $25 seems like a lot, but at the end of the day, it is going to fund our club to make it better than it has been in past years. We are trying to do more events for you guys, especially more educational events like this one. And then we will be emailing you guys out and posting on our social media about specific days where we'll be on campus selling these or near campus. And if you aren't nearby, just shoot us a DM on Instagram or just email us and we'll work something out for you to make sure you can get the t-shirt. Right now, I know I'll be on campus on Wednesday all day. So if you are wanting a t-shirt, I will be there all day on Wednesday, but I'll try to be open throughout the rest of the week in the Chicagoland area as well.
Awesome. So another thing we have going on is our no-sew blankets that Angelica, our other vice president, and I came up with for Chicago hospitals. So we're going to be making no-sew blankets eventually. We need to figure out the time, the date, and everything, but we want you guys to know that this is something we're looking forward to doing. We're looking for ways to give back to our community because, I mean, times are, you know, super tough right now. And so if there's any way that we can give back as a club, as a community, you're like, feel welcome to join us. And we'll announce it on our socials and email it so you guys will be well informed about it. But, you know, just stay tuned.
Just to follow up with that a little bit. So what I meant with like the funding from the t-shirts, like this is something it would go towards. So we're trying to use it all for good causes.
Exactly. That's a great point. So we have a Polish studies pierogi thing that's going to happen. Essentially, if you guys know about what pierogi are, there's a picture on the left. It's a very traditional food that we eat at Christmas time. We don't eat them with meat. We eat them with mushrooms inside. But, if you can't have mushrooms, you can always substitute it with something, whatever you like. And so I will be leading that. My babcia will be joining me, which means my grandma. My Polish grandmother will be joining me on Zoom. So if you want to learn how to make pierogi, we'll just have like a list of things for you to buy and you can make it with us. Many of you guys probably know what exactly it is already, but we just have to make it together, and that's going to be exciting. And it's going to be on our Polish Studies Instagram. And the last thing we're happy to announce that's going to happen with PSA is a mentorship program that is new, and we're still trying to figure that out. So basically, we know a lot of like frats and sororities do like the bigs and the littles. We kind of wanted to do that, but Polish Studies or Polish Student Alliance version of it. And so if you want to connect with people professionally, socially, get to know people so that like when you go to the Polish dances or see someone Polish on campus, you don't feel like you don't know them. And I remember feeling that during freshman year. So I really just want you guys to be able to have this experience, and PSA just wants to bring that to you this year. So we're going to like try pairing up people who are in similar majors and get that figured out starting January, but you'll hear that more from us.
Following up on that also, sorry.
No, you're
Some of you guys maybe have not gone to any Polish dances just because of the circumstances this year, but every year, and every fall, there are plenty of dances throughout the whole Chicagoland area and even some at U of I. So it's always, our idea behind this is for you to have like a pal, like someone that you know is going to be there, someone you can bring your own friends, of course, but it's nice to know someone from the club and from the Polish community that's going to be there and be able to like guide you through it, I guess, because they've been through it already.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be super nice just to get to know people and grow. So it's exciting. Last thing is follow us on our socials. So we have Polish Student Alliance on the left, LUC Polish Student Alliance, and Polish Studies on the right. If you haven't known this already, Polish Studies made an Instagram. And so we have things we have polls, we have culture, things like New Music Wednesdays, events that we talk about, cities in Poland that you get to see, like what they look like, our amazing faculty. So if you're looking for more information about that, please give us a follow and feel free to follow us at any time. Same goes for LUC Polish Student Alliance. We're going to be just posting all the social things that you can possibly think about. We work with the Polish Studies account as well, but the PSA is going to be more social and it's going to have more of our own content on there as well. Yeah. Okay, so that is all for the current presentation for that one, but we're going to go and get started with our guest. And her name is Ania Jakubczak, and so she's here to speak to us about one type of profession, which is going to be more of the medical, the psychology side of things. And yes, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for that. Just going to need 1 minute. Actually, I got an email from our director of what is the code for tonight. So I have to send that to her really quick.
Fun fact then, while you guys are waiting for her to pull that up, but if you go to the LUC Polish Student Alliance page, scroll all the way to that first photo, that's me. I started that page. So just fun fact for you guys. So like a lot of you, I started in PSA as a freshman, and I got involved very, very quickly. And by that spring of my freshman year, I was on the PSA board, unofficially kind of like the candid photographer, and kind of having a social media presence on at Loyola and helping kind of create more events and getting people together. And so you guys have brought PSA a long way from where it was, and it's awesome to see how many projects you guys are working on. It makes me incredibly proud that it's still growing. You guys are keeping the Polish community strong and sharing in the culture. But I am here today to talk about my job and what PSA has done alongside Polish Studies. So I'm a clinical case manager at Amita Health in Arlington Heights, Alexian Brothers Center for Mental Health. I actually just finished my master's, and I'm fully licensed as a licensed professional counselor, as well as the CDC accreditation, which is a certified alcohol and drug counselor. So if you have any questions following, you can go ahead and email me, because unfortunately I can't stick around for Q&As afterwards, but feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to answer questions. But let's get started. Yeah, so I was a human services major with a minor in psychology. I also got my Master of Arts in counseling psychology, and I was in the addiction concentration. And I only actually participated in Loyola PSA, and that was like my main thing at Loyola.
So the first question that we have, like there's a series, I think of 8 or 9 questions that we're going to ask, and it's just going to be very conversational. So the first question is, how do you feel growing up as a Polish American? Is it different? How is it different from your parents? What are the things that you value from those differences? What are some things that are difficult to understand?
I mean, so being Polish American, and I'm a second generation, you know, my parents were born in Poland but came here very young. There's kind of that generational difference, but also just I was born here. So already my culture and growing up is different. And it's just finding that balance of living in an American culture but being raised within the Polish culture, and, you know, mixing both the popular culture of the US and your own family's culture. But I think what I found is just, I found a unique mix of, you know, we have incorporated kind of a little bit of both into our, you know, family life, and it's still, you know, a work in progress. We don't always agree on certain views, and, you know, that's kind of something that you'll always deal with. You know, older generations won't always agree with your beliefs, especially younger, and that's still something that I struggle with today, you know, especially exploring and having an open mind to other opportunities, just because, again, they've had their own experience, and it's not to take away from theirs, but their expectation is different from my expectation and, you know, needs. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really interesting dynamic to see, you know, the Polish community, especially as a lot of us here, I think, are first, second generation students trying to get to know our culture, but also like understanding where we can go with it on our own in an American culture. So it's really cool. Okay, so the second question is, was there a benefit of participating in the Polish community while being a student at a Chicago university, and just in general living in the Chicagoland area?
Yeah, so there's 100% a benefit of being a student in the city as well as the greater Chicago area. I have made so many connections with so many Polish students at Northwestern, at UIC, at University of Chicago, at DePaul, and that's just those Chicagoland area universities. That's not even including like Dominican and Urbana-Champaign, and just some of the people I know that, you know, were from abroad. You just make so many connections just in PSA alone. And I think that the community at PSA just kind of also shows you there's so many other people that you don't even realize are there, that, you know, have that same upbringing, that have that same kind of struggle of finding that balance. And it's just nice to see and kind of feel like, yeah, you get it. So it's, you know, that sense of connection with others that are actually in that same situation. So absolutely, yes, I think there was a benefit.
Awesome. So let's see. So now talking more about like your profession, understanding, like a lot of students at Loyola are medical students, or, you know, understanding the world of like health and trying to get there. But how has that helped you personally and professionally?
So professionally, I'll start with that because that's usually for those of you that aren't native speakers, you know, growing up speaking it in your home regularly. It's a huge, huge, huge selling point for Chicago-based jobs, especially in the medical community. I've run into a lot of clients in my clinic that are Polish, and, you know, not all of them speak English. If it's broken English, so it's a little difficult, and using that medical language, having that, you know, knowledge of that Polish language just makes them feel more comfortable, makes them feel, you know, like they're not alone. So I also, I'm a Polish translator at my job. I assist with assessments, crisis intervention, just daily conversation scheduling, you know, making sure that medications are okay. So I, you know, instead of calling a translator to have to be there on the phone or come in person, especially in COVID, I'm there on site and I can always talk with the client. And I remember one of my clients, I was the first one to be a Polish speaker at my clinic. And I just remember her face when she heard that I speak Polish. She was so excited, and she was so happy. Assessments can take about 2 hours, and she, like this whole time she's smiling and she's saying, "I can't believe someone speaks Polish." So it just also personally feels really good knowing that someone is just happy to speak in their own native language. Personally, I just think it's cool to be able to speak a second or third language. I know a little bit of French. I study French. I also studied Spanish. I also just go to a lot of Polish stores, you know, the Polish delicatesy, and I have a Polish mechanic. We have, you know, builders that are Polish. So it's nice just to also talk to them. Inclusion in general just feels good. I love the reaction of those that, because I don't always come off as Polish and I don't have any accent. And so a lot of older generations don't generally realize that I'm actually a fluent speaker. So it makes them happy to know that the Polish language is alive and well and being taken care of and continuously being passed down.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the time, we spoke before, but I really liked how you talked about that when you see that smile on your client's face, or for instance, you know, sometimes it's difficult for people to convey exactly how they're feeling, and if it's not in their like native tongue. So it like even opened my eyes, because I'm a ad PR major, but you know, it really opened my eyes to see how much, you know, just if I were to have like a business client that spoke Polish or a Polish company, that I would be able to draw those bridges between, you know, my work and what they want to accomplish. So,
and professionally, even just having that Polish, if you're going into becoming a physician's assistant, a therapist, an independently licensed therapist, which is one of my goals, or even a doctor, speaking Polish is a huge selling point to get that client base, and that goes even beyond just healthcare jobs. So.
Okay, so our fourth question is, how did the Polish Studies program help you outside of college, in general, personally, and professionally, or professionally?
So I actually regret not doing the Polish Studies program. It was still kind of growing at the time when I was at Loyola. Even now looking back, and I had mentioned this when I talked to Stephanie, that I regret not taking the Polish medical terminology course, because, oh my God, there's times when I speak with some of my clients and I'm like, hold that thought, give me a second, I need to find this word, I can't think of it right now. They understand, but it would be nice just to have that word if I had taken that class. And so I do feel like I'm a little rusty when it comes to consistently speaking Polish in a medical setting. But otherwise, you know, conversationally, there's no problems. But again, I regret not doing it, because I could have definitely been a lot more fluent in that medical side, because that's not your normal Polish vernacular to talk about medicine as, you know, a student. So.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I think it's just interesting, because a lot of majors at Loyola, you know, you have to get some language core. So it's like, if you're going into medical and you're going to plan on living in Chicago, you might as well just double dip both of them and, you know, help the school, help the.
And that was one of my regrets early on of not doing that. Instead, I took French and I went and learned French for 4 years. So. So in general, I think that the Polish Studies program would have helped to just correct any like conjugation, because we know how Polish conjugation is really, really difficult, or even the structural sentence errors that sometimes you have, you know, placing the words in the wrong place, you know, the verb is supposed to go here versus the pronoun, and just also working on your pronunciation, you know, speaking back and forth. You can give that feedback to each other, and your professor can help you there. You're also working against becoming rusty in that language, or in, you know, pronunciation, grammar, and just the vocabulary. Also another, I guess, plus, if you are a fluent speaker taking these classes, you can also avoid others guessing that you're not born in Poland, at least based on your grammar. Sometimes there's still an accent that kind of gives you away, but yeah, it's just a good way to really become polished in the Polish language.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, I took the language courses with one of the professors here. You know, I walked in thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to learn the word for bread again. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to learn how to say hello again, really? But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I went to Polish school and I graduated the Polish high school, but I really got to study the language I thought I knew so well, but didn't know the tiniest differences that make you feel like feel and sound like a fluent speaker. So that's genuinely something what I got out of the class, and I was really surprised actually at the end of the day. But I continued until 102, so I definitely see your point. Okay, and so our next question is, are there certain courses that you took as a Polish studies minor that you feel have impacted your area or understanding of Polish culture? So
I'll continue. Again, I just regret not taking any. As you just said, you know, it's also understanding the smaller differences within the language, but not just that, but you're also appreciating the culture in its own language. So learning about the movies, learning about the authors and historians and everything that had to do with Poland, and you know, you're taking a greater pride in it because again, it's in, you know, your mother language. So there is regret, and if I was back at Loyola or could take back time, you know, I would definitely have done things a little differently and included that instead of taking some other classes or kind of just, you know, not looking into it at all.
Mhm. Okay, so going on more to Polish community at Loyola, like how did PSA, well, you said you wish you took Polish studies, but I guess then how did PSA being involved on the e-board, just being a part of it, help you with your academic success and just in general as growing as an individual?
So I got to meet the Polish ambassador at the Polish consulate for a Christmas party. Not many people can say they've met the ambassador. I've connected with so many other Polish students throughout the Chicagoland area and beyond. You know, not everyone's from Chicago and Polish. And I still am connected with a lot of them, and you know, we kind of support each other in our journeys, and a lot of us are either in the process of, you know, being in med school or you know, moving up and onward with life. And again, that part of that was built because of the community that and the connections I made with PSA.
So our next question is, do you feel as though from your experiences growing up with Polish culture, either being a Polish studies minor, being involved with PSA, do you think it'll affect the way or impact the way that you like spread that knowledge to your culture, to your children, or just in general to future Polish generations?
Absolutely. So I've always joked how our parents say, you need to go to Polish school, you're learning the language. That's how I feel about any kids that I may have. Like, they don't have a choice, they're going to learn Polish. You know, I just feel so strongly about making sure that the culture is passed on, because I don't want it to see it, you know, kind of shrivel up. And as much as I am proud of my American, you know, upbringing, I also am proud of my Polish heritage, and I don't want that to be lost along the lines in time.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how us as like Polish Americans are adapting to pass on that change. And so I think we have a lot to learn on our own, but like we have a lot of resources that can help us continue to grow, to be Polish and value that culture, but also understand what it means to be Polish American at the same time. So it's pretty cool. Well, that is the end of this presentation. I am going to stop the share for that, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, Anya, for joining us. It was so nice to hear about whoa. It was so nice to hear about how the medical world and like the psychology world and clinical world applies to being Polish, and genuinely it opened my eyes, and I hope it opens some of your guys's too.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us about your experiences.
Yeah, of course. And I'm going to plug in the group chat my email if anybody wants to reach out with any additional questions or anything. Our clinic, we do take volunteers for our vocational clinic if you want to get some hours or experience there. So feel free to email me and I can pass that information on for any volunteers.
Thank you so much. I know you have to go, but thank you so much for joining.
All right. Have a wonderful evening and take Polish studies. Don't regret it like I do.
That's funny. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Awesome.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, oh, that's so nice. Thank you for replying. So we have one more speaker today. Her name is Justyna. She is amazing, and she has a business communications background, but also, like I said, has an English kind of background as well when she graduated at Loyola. So we're thrilled to have her on the call, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen really quick. Okay, and I'm going to put in present mode. And awesome. So for this one, you're going to be getting more of, again, like I said, like a businessy communication side. So I know a lot of you guys wrote in your interest form that you're either a major like that. And so I think this will honestly really show you how well Polish studies or Polish language will affect your future. Awesome. Okay. And so Justyna, whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Justyna Skowroński. I just recently graduated from Loyola in May, and I graduated with an English major in English and minors in Catholic studies and journalism. So I wasn't really thinking to get myself into the business world. Everything kind of shifted very quickly in the midst of COVID and everything else. But I worked for the Hank Center for the Catholic Intellectual Heritage on Loyola's campus, and I did a lot of their marketing and event planning and programming and all of that. So that gave me a pretty big background in social media and marketing, even though that wasn't something I studied at Loyola. And those two things kind of intersected with the job I landed. So I'm currently working as a marketing assistant for a children's book company called Phoenix International Publications. And I'm also currently now pursuing a master's in marketing. So I am now a graduate student in the Quinlan School of Business. And then in terms of just like my interaction at Loyola, I did a lot of things with campus ministry, ABI, volunteer work, the Hank Center, like I said, and they ran the Catholic Studies minor, so I was a big part of the Catholic Studies community. And then I also participated as a School of Communications ambassador. So I did some events for like their 10-year anniversary and some pop-up things and volunteer work as it came up.
Awesome. So we're going to have the same questions again like we had before, but obviously it's going to have a different spin on it and a different perspective. So the first question again is, how do you feel growing up as a Polish American? How do you think it's different from your parents? What are the things that you value from those differences, and what are some things that are just really difficult to understand?
Yeah, so I feel like my parents bring this up all the time. They're always comparing what it was like for them growing up in Poland versus us being here in America. And honestly, I can't imagine what it was.
Oh no, did the connection go? Oh no, did her connection go?
I think so.
I think so.
That's so funny. Oh no. Let me just quickly email her.
And I'm the second oldest of 11 kids. So now our all of us have the opportunity to go to college and go get ourselves through school. And I've finished my undergrad now, but I have 3 other siblings still working on their undergrad. So there's 5 of us in college and then a ton of younger kids still getting through school. But my parents really enforced us speaking Polish all the time. So like my grandparents don't speak any English. So my boyfriend actually is Irish and German, so he doesn't speak any Polish. But as soon as we started dating, he knew immediately he needed to learn to speak Polish if he was going to communicate with my family. And that's something that is very important to me and I value. So I think it pays off to know 2 languages. There have been so many times where it's come into play just randomly in communicating to people, or you come across somebody who just happens to speak Polish, and that immediately like bumps you up a level in your sort of like your network of people and how you get to know them and what they remember about you, taking a step away from those interactions and opportunities where you meet people who also speak Polish. And it also sort of, I think just being Polish and having family from Europe sort of pushed me out of my just like bubble of friends. So it forced me to want to study abroad. It forced me to want to travel. It forced me to want to go back to Poland. And the little picture on the PowerPoint is from my matura. I went to Polish school at Trójcowo. So I did my matura about 5 years ago. And my mom's from like Nowy Targ area, and my dad's from Podhala. So I kind of just like did a presentation based on where they're from for geography when I was finishing up Polish school.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what matura is, it's like the high school exam that, I mean, it's taken much more seriously in Poland, but in America we do the equivalent of that, what would be in our Polish schools. So it's basically this big exam that you have to do, and if you don't pass it, you technically retake the year. But every Polish school is different, their seriousness is different. So yeah, but it's really interesting. Thank you. Okay, so our next question is, was there a benefit of participating in the Polish community while being a student at a Chicago university and in general just living in a Chicagoland area?
I think absolutely. So I danced for a little over 10 years for Zespół Pieśni Tańca Laikonik, so that's the picture on the left, and Polish school. And so I never thought that like Polish school would come back to haunt me later on, or that it would like college. The Polish school I taught for was looking for more teachers, just to get more people in classrooms and have assistants and everything with all the students there. And I initially went into college thinking that I was going to come out and be a teacher and pursue education. And so I was doing classes, or I was teaching like classes alongside Loyola's education program. And then I was also doing Polish school with second graders. And I did that for 2 years. So I worked as a teaching assistant and worked alongside another teacher in those 2 classrooms. And that just helped me just stay on top of my Polish and talk to all the kids and teach the language from a very elementary level, on top of just talking with my family on the day-to-day. I saw someone ask where the Polish school is. The Polish school I went to was Świętej Trójcy, and that's technically in Wicker Park, Chicago. So it's on Noble and Division, if anybody knows where that is.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally changed slides. Okay, where did it go?
Okay. Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah, oh my gosh, so much technical issues. Zoom is sometimes not my thing, but sorry. And you know what's funny, actually, I was going to say, you know, the Polish community is so much smaller than you think, like in a sense of like, you know, so many people. It's such a small world, because you sent photos to me to include in this presentation, and I was like, no way, you know someone I know. And so it's just building these connections that you never knew were there. And it's so interesting to see how easy it is to find connections between people. So it's really amazing. So going into—
I had a neighbor say, oh, sorry.
Well, no,
I had a neighbor say to me probably like 10 years ago, he said it's a very small world for Polish people. And I just always laugh when I think about it, because somebody always knows somebody else that you know.
Exactly. It could be like, you know, your mechanic knows the person who owns the deli, Polish deli, or like, you know, your babcia knows this person, this doctor, and you get connections so easily just being a part of the Polish community and just like speaking it in general. The minute you like learn, you are tapping into such a big community in Chicago. So it's pretty so going on to your like professional, like business life, which I find so amazing for how you went from like English to all the way to communications and marketing. So how has it helped you? How's the Polish language helped you personally and professionally?
Yeah, so I'll start probably professionally because that's more relevant or more recent, I guess. So I branched out sort of while I was at Loyola, and through the Hank Center, we hosted events and conferences and different programs. And we had a conference last fall. It was the Catholic Imagination Conference, and they had speakers from all over America and the world come in to talk about different types of works, whether that's books, poetry, playwrights, movies, films, anything like that, that had an intersection with faith. And we had a panel of speakers from Poland. So it was a playwright, a poet, two publishers, and I think one writer. And one of them was based in America, but the other ones are from Poland. And my boss did not know how to communicate with them. So I became like the go-to in between person and the ambassador for the program to speak to everyone who was coming from Poland, and then got to like revise all their bios and all the other information that we needed for the program itself. But that allowed me to expand my network of not just to Polish speakers, but to people outside of America, so in Poland. So I've been able to stay in touch with people who are in Poland who are doing things similar to what I want to do and what I'm passionate about, and that's publishing and writing, and in addition to all the marketing stuff as well now and that business side of things. And so in addition to that, I applied for my job probably in around March, and I heard back from them in May and did a series of interviews and landed this job at the children's book company. But they said that the number one reason, my boss told me this a couple months ago, the number one reason they hired me was because I had a Polish background, and I know Spanish very well. So I was trilingual, but they said the fact that I have grown up in a different culture speaking another language and was multilingual, that really drew them to me because the company is international and global. So that in their eyes was beneficial to them, because then I can communicate with anybody who comes their way who speaks Polish and Spanish, and we've published books in both languages. So that for me was kind of shocking, but I didn't think that that's why I got the job, but obviously it's an added bonus. So knowing another language can never harm you. It can only benefit you. So you're going to meet a lot of people through it one way or another. And then personally, I mean, I've been able to connect with all of my siblings and all of my extended family, relatives, parents, grandparents, family in Poland. And I love going back to Poland and being able to like really throw myself and immerse myself into the culture and just like speak nonstop Polish. Because even when you're here, you kind of like mix it in between with your siblings and only speak Polish with grandparents, but speak English with friends. So just being in a Polish culture where I can speak to them like all around in Polish all the time. I love being able to do that. And I have that ability after having gone through so many years of Polish school. And additionally, I've just met so many friends, whether it's through Polish school, through Polish dance, through going to a Polish church or Polish choir. I've met so many people over the years, and nobody will understand your background and where you come from like other people who also have a Polish background and understand how parents respond in a certain way because they were from a different country.
Yeah. The one thing I really liked when I saw your presentation was that, because before this, so everybody knows, like we had like the presentations filled out and everything, but I saw that it said, I teach my boyfriend a new language so he engage with my family culture. I thought that was so funny and amazing, because I was just talking to like one of the professors in our Polish studies department, and he was saying that a lot of people take his classes. It was Professor Shushko. A lot of people take his classes that like want to impress friends, that want to impress family, dive into their culture. But it's just amazing to see how many people are actually interested in trying to impress their significant others. So when you said that, I was like, oh, it is coming to life. That really is the case. And so that was fun to see.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been just doing Duolingo for about a year, but has really just being around my family that speaks 24/7 Polish. Like he's picked up on so many things, so he can just say them like right off the bat very easily.
Yeah, and sometimes those are like key words, and you like throwing yourself into immersing yourself in the culture is probably like one of the best ways to learn. So That's awesome.
Yeah.
Picking it up. Yeah. So next question is, how did the Polish Studies program help you outside of college in general, personally and professionally?
So yeah, I unfortunately was not a part of the Polish Studies program. And oh my gosh, I wish I did it so bad. But I found out about it my junior year, and I remember I think I was at like a club fair or something like that, some sort of organizational fair. And I ran into someone who was representing the Polish Studies program, and she's telling me all about it. And then we get to the end of the conversation, and I'm hooked, and I'm like, yes, I want to do an internship. I want to do these classes. This sounds awesome. She's like, what year are you? And I was like, you could try to do it, but you'd have to like do everything right now. And I knew that between all the classes I had to finish still to graduate in 4 years, I wouldn't be able to complete the program. So that is definitely one of my biggest regrets from Loyola. But I think like my senior year, I came across like a literature class that I thought was really, really cool, and a film class that were really cool. And both of those I really wanted to take, but they just didn't fit in with my schedule that last semester. But I highly recommend just like take it and do it if you can fit it in, because you won't regret it. I, on the other hand, do regret it because I didn't do it. But I think that just knowing another language and keeping up with Polish, whether that was through like teaching younger kids, teaching my boyfriend, communicating with my siblings and doing Polish school homework with them on Fridays at home, like just freshening up those skills and keeping up with the second language really does enhance your knowledge and learning and like remaining bilingual or multilingual. So I think like if you're able to do that in college, even if you can't complete a whole program, doing 1 or 2 courses really does make a difference, or even an internship or something small if you can fit it into your schedule.
Yeah. I know some of us in here like have taken some of our literature courses and our film courses, and history courses, and you know what, all of our courses in Polish studies they're really good. All of the courses that they offer are amazing. So, you know, it gives you a new angle of Poland that I found they didn't show us in Polish school. For instance, like our film course, I saw Poland from a new angle. And I mean, it was just amazing to see. And I showed my mom the films that we watched, and she's like, I've never heard of this, like, as in like in a very good, surprising way. She's like, I didn't know that this is like a bigger, larger meaning than I realized, you know, all those kinds of things. So at the same time, I'm teaching my mom. So it's just really funny to see how that's playing out.
Stefania, do you want to quickly touch on some of the classes that do double dip with core? Just because I know I didn't know that a lot of Polish studies classes do double dip with core. And right now I have 2 semesters left at Loyola, so it's too late for me to do it. I was lucky enough to meet you basically the end of last year. And you're the one who like educated me about the program and everything, but I hope that like we can like get freshmen and sophomore to know about this before it's too late, so they're not like Justina and I.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely show you guys at the end of this meeting. I can show you even last semester's courses, because for this semester they're not currently like 100% ready, but they almost are. And so I can show you which ones double dip, so you really understand that it is literally so easy to get your Polish studies minor. Almost, I would say like 75% of the classes count for something. If it doesn't count for your core, it's a writing intensive. You know, it's like that. And it's like, might as well learn about something, you know, that you thought you knew so well. But at the end of the day, I'll be real, a lot of us don't know like half of the things they teach in that class from the angle that they are taught at. And so I learned Poland from a new angle, and I love it. And I love it, I love it, I love it. So if you're interested, I'll show you guys at the end of this how it plays out. So this kind of goes along with the last question, but saying like, are there any courses that you wish you took as a Polish studies minor that you feel would have impacted your understanding of Polish culture or even in your career?
So I don't know the names of the courses off the bat, but I know there was one that I wanted to take it because it reminded me of the end of my basically like Polish school career. So I know there's like different levels of seriousness and how difficult matura is at different Polish schools. I feel like our Polish school took it very seriously. Like we had like 5 levels of exams. We had like grammar, geography, history. We had a religion exam, and then we had a written one and like spoken presentations. Like it was crazy. I think that I slept less studying for matura for Polish school than I did like for anything else in college. Like we took it very seriously, and I'm really glad I did. But one of my final projects in completing Polish school was a literature and poetry presentation on Wisława Szymborska. And I would have loved to take anything like that by other authors or writers or poets while at Loyola. And I know that there are courses like that that are offered. I just didn't have the privilege of taking those courses during my time.
So going like off of like Polish culture and community at Loyola, talking about how you wish you've had more of that Polish culture going on from like an educational background at Loyola. How has the Polish community, PSA, and or your desire to join the Polish studies program, like how did it help with your academic success and or growing as an individual?
Yeah, so I feel like Polish studies and the entire Polish community at Loyola introduced me to a lot of people. Like one of my best friends was in Polish studies, and I met her very early on at Loyola and then ended up living with her junior and senior year. And like we just immediately bonded. And you'll find people like that all the time. Like if you haven't yet, you're going to find your person at some point in time at Loyola, because you just find someone who understands your Polish background so much and you just click right away. But there were a lot of students in my classes that I feel like everybody does this to some extent. You look at someone and you think like, oh, they're probably Polish, or like, I feel like they speak Polish, or you think you've like heard them on the phone, like talking to their mom. And then like through the PSA, like I was able to sort of like figure out who actually does speak Polish. And to me, like that was so much fun, because I'm like, hey, aren't you in my like IES class or something else, or and you realize that you have something in common with someone else, whereas otherwise like you might not know anybody from that class. And that helped me to meet people and make more friends too at Loyola.
Yeah, and it looks like you had a lot of fun dancing and like with the whole group. Yeah, which I
I did. And the last picture,
I have to
the one on the bottom is from Andrzejki.
Oh, that's from Andrzejki. Oh, okay, that's so awesome. I have to ask you later if you know someone. This is so funny. This connection.
Andrzejki, is that a group from PSA, from Loyola PSA, or is it just from overall from any school?
So a lot of my friends in this picture are from PSA. But I also know them from Lykonik. So like a lot of my Lykonik friends from Polish dance went to Loyola. So
okay. I was gonna say you guys all look super close. And like that's the ultimate goal of PSA. Like I know I met my best friends like in this club. So like I guess trying to get more people to have a community like that is our goal.
Yeah. Picture is the goal. Maybe we'll have to use that for like our ads or something. This could be you. So yeah, definitely. So nice. It's so refreshing to see that. I love it. Okay, so our final question for you is, drum roll. Do you feel as though from your experiences growing up with the Polish culture, wishing you had a Polish studies minor, being involved with PSA, do you think it'll impact the way you pass on your culture to your children or in general to future generations?
Yeah, so my parents really instilled this in us. And like, so my youngest sibling is 4. So there's still a lot of kids in our family, and all of them are doing like Polish school, Polish dance, Polish choir, Polish church, altar serving as boys in a Polish church. And then they do góralskie dance too on the side. So like their whole week is not just like after school activities, but it's like Polish after school activities. And even though it seemed crazy going through it as a kid and seeing my siblings go through all that, I don't feel like I'd have it any other way. Like when I think about how I want to raise children and bring kids into the world, like I can't do that without instilling Polish culture and the language in them too. So like that's why it's so important to me, because I speak fluently in Polish every time I'm home, every time I'm talking to one of my siblings or family members. Like I'm going to speak to my kids the same way too. Like, I mean, it sounds funny, but like even I speak in Polish to my dog, even though like I don't know if dogs speak languages, but like to me, like that's just an indication, like it just comes naturally, and it's so important and ingrained in my heart that I want to pass that on to future generations. And I think my parents and grandparents tried so hard to do that with us, even though we are in a foreign country to them. I want to continue that tradition and move it forward as well too with future generations.
Yeah, that is amazing. It is so happy to hear. That's the end of this presentation. Let me bring us back to the screen. Awesome. So yay, clap, clap, clap.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It's so wonderful to hear like two different perspectives, you know, from more of a business side, but also something that's like also medical. So I feel like I hope a lot of people got something out of today. If you like this kind of stuff, let us know. Maybe we'll do like a feedback forum. I don't know. So,
Yeah, and if you don't mind, if I could just add one more thing, like I would branch out. I know a lot of you guys are still students, and I'm sure if you're in like communications or business, people are probably talking to you about your LinkedIn accounts and how many connections you have to have and everything else. But like if you see someone and you don't even know them and you see that they speak Polish or they're from a Polish organization or they have that as a skill, like connect with those people online, because they're always looking for Polish speakers and young, new, fresh faces or new ideas. And when you come out of college or when you are job hunting, like those people are going to connect with you or connect you to someone else who is looking for someone who speaks Polish. Like the community is so big and everyone cares so deeply about each other, even if they've never met you, like they will take you under their wing. So like in terms of business, like I would always branch out to anyone, even if you're like, hey, they have a Polish last name, like there's got to be some connection there. Like people will surprise you.
Thank you for mentioning that. My sister actually popped off with us because she had another meeting, but she was actually gonna like do a little Q&A too at the end for anyone who had questions for her. But she was actually in San Francisco last year. She's a computer engineer and now she's working as a patent engineering lawyer. And she actually was going around to different companies in the Silicon Valley area. And one night they went for dinner at like a house of like a lady who just like welcomed them, gave them a tour and whatever. And it turned out she was Polish. And she actually heard my sister say something on the phone or something. And she took my sister right under her wing. And my sister like helped her with dinner and everything. And like she actually connected me to her. And this lady worked at a huge consulting firm, Apple, and now Uber. So I think just showing that you're involved in another culture and that you're just like a global student and individual just shows more depth to you. So I think that's also important, that you do have to step out of your comfort zone and show that you have like a Polish background and that you're willing to use the skills that you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
The cool thing about that too is like, you know, if you didn't grow up Polish or anything and this is all new to you, maybe you're here because your professor offered it and you're like, oh, I'm interested, or there's extra credit incentive, whatever you're here for, like understand that the course that you're taking, whatever courses you're taking from Polish Studies Department, they are genuinely just going to like give you a new angle of the world that a lot of the time, you know, you hear in history books, Poland, and then it jumps over Poland. Like, and then you're like, what happened in Poland? And so you're getting this chance to dive into a culture that's untapped, but also has a massive population in Chicago. So it's about like those connection buildings. And, you know, like Justyna said, like we are very welcoming, like the Polish community, to have people learn the language. It's amazing when we hear like a non-native speaker or someone that didn't grow up with it be able to like speak it fluently. You're almost like, whoa, that's a lot of work. And you get so much, you gain so much respect from people, and other people like respect you even more. So it's an amazing experience. And I hope, yeah, you guys enjoyed this presentation. So I guess we only have Justyna on for questions and answers today. But if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask, we'll open like the floor up to you guys now. So we'll wait a minute or two or something. And then also, if you're interested in hearing about the double dipping process of how your core is actually really easy to get with a Polish Studies minor, I will show that after the Q&A. So if there's no questions or whatever, then I'll just jump to that. But the floor is yours.
Yeah, and if you guys are feeling shy, you can chat it too.
That's a good
I know
point.
people communicate more digitally instead of out loud. And then I'm going to pop my email in too in case anybody wants to reach out or comes up with questions afterwards.
So I'm gonna get the courses up in the meantime, but of course, if anyone has a question, please, feel free to ask in the meantime.
Actually, I do have a question. You said you dance in Lyconic. Do
Mhm.
you by any chance know Natalia Shushko or Gabby Konieczna?
Yeah, I know both of them.
Yeah, so Natalia's like one of my closest friends. It's so fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like all of our families just know each other from being at the same church
Yeah.
and same Polish
I
school and
always
same
wish I
dance.
could have done like more. I did Polish dancing when I was like very little, but
Mhm.
I wish I had continued with it when I was older.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I think who are coming back to it this year because our group's celebrating a 30-year anniversary.
Oh,
So it's exciting.
love that.
Does anyone have anything that they've learned as a student or like through internships that they'd also want to add?
Or if anybody is finding anything interesting in their courses that they're taking, like from a Polish studies course, share the wisdom.
I'm actually taking a Polish World War II literature class at Loyola, and it's actually really interesting. You kind of learn about like we're watching animations, like Polish animations post World War II, and it's pretty cool to like see those. And you also get like you see UCLR 100, and I like it. It's like a different perspective. Like it goes along with like what you learned in Polish school because I did it too. But it's like you get a whole different take on it, and it's more in depth.
Is it with Professor Merchant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking from the comments, and yeah, Professor Merchant is pretty cool. So that's a great class to take. If anybody saw that comment, that's funny. So yeah, does anybody have any more questions for Justina? Well, again, if you guys have any questions, shoot her an email, connect on LinkedIn, or something. Just do anything that you guys want to do to be able to connect with her and get in touch with her. She's so nice. And I just met her a couple days ago, and I'm so happy that you joined us. It was such a pleasure to meet you. So
Yeah, of course, no problem. Yeah, when Carolina reached out to me, I was like, okay, I'm doing it because I knew that it was something she would do. And I'm like, this was something that I was very excited about. I normally get nervous with presentations, but my whole drive home from work, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to all these Polish people tonight.
that's so funny. I love that.
I'm glad you're excited. Stefania, do you want to go in and expand a little about Polish studies then and the double dipping?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I don't know if you have to go, but if you need to go, you're more than free. If you'd like to stay and listen to how they double dip to reminisce, I guess you're more than welcome to. But I will go ahead and show this. Let's see.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you
for
so
coming.
much.
We really appreciate it.
Don't hesitate to reach out. I don't bite.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Hi, everybody. Whoever is staying, we're just going to go through, we're going to do like a Polish Studies 411. If you're interested in staying, or if you have to go, that's completely fine too. This will be recorded if you want to look at it later. But if we're looking at our Polish Studies courses, there are obviously the language courses. Those don't really count for core, but you have to get them done for your Polish Studies minor. And a lot of the time, if certain majors require a language requirement, I know Add PR does. And so that can totally be covered if you take like the Polish language courses. And so for instance, I think we used to have like a business one, or like some other schools, I think I've heard that. So, you know, if we get more of an interest in that, and if more people are taking this minor and are business people, perhaps we can bring that back. You know, it just depends on like how many people are a part of the program at the time. So we have the elementary Polish. This was from fall 2020. So this is what's happening now. So a lot of the courses you'll see here, you know, you already know of. So, and are being taught. So, and then if we look at literature, I remember starting out, I think it was freshman year or sophomore year, I took Professor Merchant's UCLR 100M. I forgot exactly which type it was. I think it was Polish and Irish literature at the time. I think it changes sometimes, but right now it's like the interpreting literature, and that counts for your tier 1 core for literature. So boom, there you go. Core is done for tier 1, and you also got a Polish studies minor course in the mix. And then if you look at like literature 200, which is right underneath it, talking about the European masterpieces in Polish Irish literature. I also took that one, so I took 2 times learning about Polish and Irish literature. So I don't want to call myself a pro, but you know, I feel like I know a lot about it, and I have a great understanding of it. That one is also a really fun class. We have Dr. Merchant that teaches that one, and then Dr. Hutchins as well. I haven't taken any of his courses, but I know a lot of people have. They are great too. They count for your tier 2 core. So there you go, boom, done. Literature tier 2, done. Polish studies, almost halfway done. And yes, and then there's literature 280. This one, I'm not sure actually if this one counts for your tier 2. I know some professors are online if they want to jump in to be able to share about this. And talk about their courses as well, but Professor McLeese teaches that one. And so it's just a really interesting take on, you know, the literature world of Poland. And when it comes to film, something I didn't know actually with our program is that we are one of the few universities that offers such a wide variety of courses that you can take to get a Polish studies minor. We have literature courses, you know, the language courses, obviously, because the language, but we have film courses, which is a lot of other universities can't say that. So to be able to go to Loyola and have that is amazing. And that one would be with Professor Banash, who teaches the history of Polish cinema, international film. At one point he taught women in Polish film, I believe, and then also taught a post-World War II film course, which I actually took and was very interesting. That one doesn't do tier 2 core, but it does get your writing intensive like fulfilled. So if you need to do that, that one's also done and off the plate, which we all have to do. So might as well just do it, you know, Polish studies. Woo. And then when it comes to history, there is with Dr. Shushko, who I think is on the call still. I am not 100% sure, but can't tell. But anyway, yes, Professor Shushko is on
that shirt. Oh, on that shirt, on that class.
Yeah. If Professor Shushko is there.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say about your courses that you teach, because I feel like, yeah, your words of wisdom.
So if you're interested, I think this one that you have here is honors.
Yeah, this yes, this is the honors one. Mm-hmm.
So I teach honors. So if you're in the honors program, this is your honors course. But I teach also history classes. Every single one of them that deals with Poland is 300 level writing intensive. So you are not double dipping in terms of your core requirement, but you will get a writing intensive requirement done. And these are history of Poland and Eastern Europe in the 20th century. Also the history of nationalism and communism, the scary isms.
I know one of the students actually had a question, Professor Shushko. Does Polish 102 count for history? Because I know next semester you'll be offering it, right?
So it's history 102, not
history. I'm so sorry.
History 102 is just core. It doesn't count for Polish studies.
Okay.
Sorry. Although it will be the one that I will I will lead to Poland in 2022. We will have one section of History 102, and I hope that this one will count towards Polish minor, because we will be going to Poland. But we had to cancel the one for spring 2021 because of the virus. but we will for sure have one in 2022.
Which is super exciting. So everyone mark your
So we will
calendar.
go for 9 days to Poland over the spring break and visit Gdańsk and Toruń, and then we'll go to Warsaw and to Kraków.
I definitely wish I knew about that my freshman year, or like I wish I was prepared to not take my tier 1 core, but so hopefully fingers crossed it's going to count for Polish studies, guys. But so this is an idea. We also have the political science course that is all about the EU. That's, you know, sometimes it depends on what semester it's being taught at and whatnot. I also took that one, and that counts for your Polish studies minor if you're, I think it's PLSC 347 European Union. So you'll learn all about the European Union, which Poland is a part of, and what's going on, the tensions, the connections, how we got to be a part of it. It's not all about Poland, but it does cover aspects of Poland as well. And you make it, you know, you shape it kind of to like learn about it from your angle, and it helps like understand Polish culture too. So that's offered sometimes with Professor Olga Avgedeva. So she's amazing. She's so cool, like all of our professors are. But I just wanted to show you guys briefly.
Actually, if I may.
Oh, yes, Professor McLeese. Hello.
Hello. Next semester, the Political Science course 347, the European Union will also be offered, and it will be taught by Chris Hasselman. So that counts for Polish studies. It's about European Union. The 347 and 346 always count for Polish studies in that direction. As far as the History 102, we are working and hoping that maybe next one in 2022 will count for Polish studies, like Professor Suszko mentioned. So that would be also a kind of possibility of double dipping, if that is possible. And I am working on the current one. There are, because of the change of schedule, there are problems with times, and I don't want to send one that have times inappropriately mentioned, and Locus has some mistakes. So that's why it's holding it back. But I suggest that when I'll send you the ready flyer, Study Polish, if you could send to all the participants that were online today, or to whoever might be interested, then the whole list of courses for spring semester will be available to them, probably next week, early next week, or maybe even tomorrow. I'm waiting to hear from the administration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Professor McLeese.
My pleasure.
And Professor Suszko as well. Thank you so much. So I'm going to stop the recording right now, but I do want to do one more thing if everyone's okay. Wait, let me see.